Okay, good evening. I'm going to call to order the September 21st, 2021 regular Planning Commission meeting. Carissa, would you like to do a roll call?
Yes, I will note that Chair Gove is absent. Vice Chair Tarnay?
Here.
Commissioner Freeman?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Riley?
Here.
Thank you. And if you guys would like to rise as you're willing and able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, I hate that. Okay. So item 4 on our agenda is an opportunity for public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda. Okay. I will really quick review the process for in-person public comment for this and for other items. If anyone would like to speak, you approach the microphone and state your name for the record. You are limited to 3 minutes for your comment. That's so everyone has a chance to speak. The microphone will shut off after 3 minutes. And the Planning Commission cannot respond to questions during public comment and can't take action on any item brought up during public comment. Great. Are there any members of the public who would like to make public comment? That looks like a no. Okay. We do not, item 5 is approval of minutes. We don't have any. Item 6 is minor review items. We also do not have any. So that brings us to item 7, major review items. This is agenda item 7.1 is for 12885 Zurich Place Offices application 2021 00000032. I think I keep going on this. Okay, so the staff recommendation on this is to just open the public hearing, receive public comment, and continue the hearing to a date and time uncertain. Are there any commissioner recusals or disclosures about this item? Okay, that looks like a no.
I do know the applicant.
Okay.
And I have looked at this property.
You have looked at
That was a number of years ago.
All right. We won't be making any decisions tonight, so I'm not sure that that makes any difference this evening, but thank you. Okay, so I'm going to open public comment for the Zurich Place Offices application. Are there any members of the public that would like to make a public comment for this item? Okay, that looks like a no, so I'm going to close public comment. And then, do we have a motion? Okay, so it looks like we need a motion to continue this to a date and time uncertain. Would anyone like to?
Motion to continue this item.
I'll second that.
Excellent. Thank you. Carissa, would you like to do a roll call?
Vice Chair Tarnay?
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Riley?
Yes.
Great. The motion to continue passes. Moving on now to agenda item 7.2. This is for the Trout Creek Recreation Center project amendment, the Snow Place snowmaking application. It's 2021-00000055. Are there any commissioner recusals or disclosures?
I worked for Stantec, or for a company that Stantec bought in 2008. That's my only association with anything in this project.
Excellent. That was quite a while ago. Okay, so the staff presentation is going to go to Chantal Bernberg. Are you all ready?
I am. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
So this is item 7.2, Trout Creek Recreation Center project amendment for Snow Place snowmaking. The proposed project is located on the driving range at the Trout Creek Recreation Center in Tahoe Donner. The project site is zoned recreation, and it is part of our Tahoe Donner plan area in our current general plan. The applicant is requesting project amendment approval to add outdoor commercial recreation as a permitted use at the Trout Creek Recreation Center for the existing winter snow play area and to intermittently produce snow on the site with the installation of 2 snowmaking guns. Tahoe Donner has operated its winter snow play area, which they call snow play, for approximately 30 years. The project amendment will officially permit this use. And snow play is a fee-based monitored sledding and tubing hill, as I mentioned, located at the driving range at Trout Creek. Snow play generally operates from November to April. Hours are 9 to 4:30 on the weekends and 1:30 to 4:30 on Fridays. And weekends and holidays, I should say, 9 to 4:30. The applicant is also requesting to add snowmaking to the snow play area, hoping to start a solid snow base and have more consistent and safe snow conditions on the course during the winter. 2 SMI silent polecat snowmaking guns are proposed. They are connected to the pump house with a 150 feet of below grade 3-inch snowmaking pipeline. And the water provided for snowmaking is through TDPUD, through the Truckee Donner Public Utility District. So a little background. Tahoe Donner's Trout Creek Recreation Center primarily serves Tahoe Donner residents and their guests. It's an approximately 14,000 square foot center with indoor gym facilities, pools, and a driving range. The rec center was originally permitted by Nevada County in 1991 with multiple amendments approved by both Nevada County and the town of Truckee for various building expansions. The latest entitlement was approved in 2020, and this was a temporary use permit for snowmaking that came about through a pre-application review request. So in mid-2020, the Tahoe Donner Association submitted a pre-app to investigate the permitting pathway for their winter to add snowmaking to their winter snow play area. During the staff review, it was found that the winter play area had not been included as part of the earlier use permit approvals. So it was noted that TDA would need to amend the current use permit to add the outdoor commercial recreation use to allow for the snow play area. And then in addition to add snowmaking, our development code would require that activities that could produce noise levels that could exceed noise standards prepare an acoustical analysis as part of a land use proposal. In the spirit of collaboration and the spirit of COVID, staff and the applicant team decided that a temporary use permit that would allow for 14 days of snowmaking in 2020 would allow Tahoe Donner to conduct the acoustical analysis while also providing additional snow coverage for outdoor recreation on site, understanding that increasing potential outdoor recreation activities was important during COVID. Tahoe Donner Association was required to notice all property owners within 500 feet and provide a complaint line to register any noise complaints. And during that temporary use permit period, no noise complaints were received. So tonight, the land use entitlement that's requested is a project amendment, which would amend the last approval. The amendment, as I mentioned, is to add this outdoor commercial recreation as a permitted use. The development code defines outdoor commercial recreation as facilities for various outdoor participant sports and types of recreation where a fee is charged for use. This is allowed as a conditional use with a use permit in the recreation zone district. So because the requested use is allowable with use permit approval, staff is recommending making use permit findings to approve the project amendment. The Planning Commission's role would be to consider the operating characteristics of the snow play area in the context of the existing recreation center, the neighborhood, and future land uses. And the Planning Commission should take into account that the snow play has operated without any known conflicts with adjoining uses over the last 30 years. So one of our findings for use permit approval is whether the use is consistent with our general plan. The rec center itself was deemed consistent with all general plan policies and goals in our previously adopted mitigative neg deck. In the general plan, we have some policies that are specific to the Tahoe Donner plan area. TDP1 instructs that all approvals should be consistent with Tahoe Donner's approved master plan. Snow play is part of that approved master plan. Also, TDP5 encourages minimizing residential and recreational conflicts while protecting our natural resources. Staff does believe that the project is consistent as it directs sledding and tubing to a monitored area on an already disturbed golf driving range and lessens the impacts and potential for sledding and tubing in natural resource areas or on surrounding private property. We also must ensure that the project is consistent with our development code. We'll start with the zone district, recreation. Uses that are consistent with the rec zone district include active recreational activities compatible with natural resource areas such as camping, skiing, golfing, lodging, residences, and support services. As previously mentioned, outdoor commercial recreation is a permitted use in this rec zone district with approval of a use permit. So this is usually where we would go through a list of development standards such as setbacks or heights, but the proposed project does not involve the construction of any permanent structures or changes to any of the existing recreation facility. So we're just gonna discuss two potential sections where the project could be inconsistent. And first up, we have noise. So as previously mentioned, the development code noise standards require an acoustical analysis when expected noise levels may impact sensitive receptors. For this project, the sensitive receptors are residential uses. The applicant performed the acoustical analysis. The analysis concluded that the noise level did not exceed 46 decibels, which is lower than the noise standard maximum of 50 decibels during nighttime hours. Also, to ensure that noise levels remain below the maximums as required by Chapter 18.44, staff added condition of approval number 13, which would allow the town to request further analysis if noise complaints are received. So moving on to parking. Staff does not believe additional parking is necessary for the snow play use. The rec center has 221 existing parking spaces, with this number being approved with the most recent use permit approval. Staff believes that the parking demand, which occurs with snow play, is satisfied with the reduction of parking demand associated with the closure of the driving range. This is further supported by the lack of known parking issues over the last 30 years. So staff believes that the project is consistent with our development code. So staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the project amendment with incorporation of the recommended conditions of approval. The Planning Commission has previously determined that the existing recreational facility is an appropriate use in the rec zone district, and staff believes that the use of the driving range as a winter snow play area is consistent with the intent of that approval. Staff is not aware of any complaints or impacts regarding the historic operation of the snow play area. The addition of snowmaking will keep the recreation site open consistently throughout the season, and with the incorporation of the project conditions of approval should not cause conflict with the surrounding uses. Staff does see benefit in having that monitored sledding and snow play area in Tahoe Donner, thereby lessening pressure and environmental impacts on the surrounding natural recreation areas. Staff has not received any public comment as of 4 p.m. today. And for the official recommendation, adopt Resolution 2020-108, determining the project to be exempt from CEQA per Section 15301, existing facilities of the CEQA guidelines, and approve the project amendment based on the recommended findings and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. Of course, the commission can take alternative actions. The commission can continue the public hearing to date and time certain. If you request additional information and it's presented at the next meeting, the public portion of the hearing must be reopened. You can find that the exemption to CEQA is not suitable and require the preparation of an initial study in accordance with CEQA. You can approve the project amendment subject to adding, modifying, or eliminating any provision or condition of approval, or you could deny the project on the basis that the required findings cannot be made. The appeal period for this project ends at 5 p.m. on October 1st. And I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you, Chantal. Okay, does the commission have any clarifying questions for staff? I'm going to look down towards Nikki to start.
Yeah, I have one question. Did staff discuss amongst yourself or with the applicant concerns regarding drought years? I mean, I recognize the point of the snowmaking is to kind of augment when we aren't getting so much snow, but is there any concern when we're in a drought year, which we are, that there might be excessive use to be creating the snow above and beyond what might be needed in kind of a typical year?
So we've let that determination up to TDPUD as they control the water supply and have approved the project. I do have a little bit more information that was provided from TDPUD regarding snowmaking facilities in general and when they approve them. And so I thought it was interesting to note the Truckee River Operating Agreement, which governs the water use in the Truckee River Basin, says that snowmaking returns 84% back to the water supply. So basically, you're storing water as snow, and that the district believes that they have adequate water supply to serve this and all other needs at the time. They have a lot of underground storage, so we're not really, I mean, not to say that we're not in a drought, but that they feel comfortable serving it. So staff leaves that decision up to the water districts and the water planners.
Great, I appreciate that and appreciate the information you shared. Thank you. That's all, Susie.
Commissioner Freeman?
I just had one quick question, kind of on the same vein. Is there any data on like comparison of snowmaking usage as far as water goes compared to golf course usage?
Not that I don't have that information. That would be a great district TDPUD question, most likely.
I didn't really expect you to have it.
No, I mean, I could see that it would. I would imagine golf would be
I would
a
just be
higher
curious,
usage.
Does 2 snowmaking guns equal one hole? Or what is the water usage comparison?
I'm not sure, but I do know that the intent of this snowmaking is not to, like a golf course needs to keep the grass green, whereas this is to get a base and maybe, fluff up areas that, have snow melt, but I don't think it'd be used at the same time. And the applicant may have more information about that during.
We could probably try to get that information, but we wouldn't have it for this evening's discussion.
It's more just curiosity.
Thank you. And Commissioner Miller?
I just have one question also. The temporary permit mentioned a cap on users at 120, and I didn't see that in this new amendment. Can you discuss that? Was there a reason to not specify a limit?
The capacity was given to us by Tahoe Donner, so there was no reason. I know that that's their preferred maximum capacity. As part of the conditions of approval, they do have to work through a patrol plan and a parking management plan with Truckee Fire. So, I could see that could be reduced if Truckee Fire does not feel that that's a safe number. I think we could ask the applicant where the 120 came from, and maybe that's a staffing or just a space requirement for them to safely operate their snow play area.
So if we don't include a limit in this, there are plenty of other opportunities to make sure that it's not overcrowded or has other negative effects.
I would say from a life safety standpoint, I would assume that could be Truckee Fire, but we could discuss a limit if that made the commission more comfortable. I think what I didn't want to do is give a bigger limit than what maybe Truckee Fire would be comfortable with, and then have it be, well, we said it could be 120, and maybe they don't feel that way. But I'm definitely open for discussion.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so is it common, are there other places in town that use drinking water to make snow? Do we know?
I would assume the other Tahoe Donner facilities that do snowmaking, the cross-country.
Cross-country and the downhill ski hill.
Okay. Moving on to the next question, but if this were not a commercial or fee-based use, would they need a permit? If it were free, would they be able to do the snowmaking without a permit?
They would have to establish a use on the property. Off the top of my head, I guess, whatever, if it was in the rec zone district, they would have to establish some sort of recreational use, and we would look at it at that point. If we're talking about what we discussed earlier, that some aspects of this could just be a building permit, like the grading for the line, but really we need to make sure that the development is tied to an approved use. Which is on all on all properties.
Our definition of outdoor commercial recreation does mention charging of a fee in the definition. However, if there was some kind of formalized recreation area that wasn't, that was free, we would probably still classify it under that same category. Again, assuming it was kind of a formalized thing with rental of tubes or sleds or other, concessionaire type stuff.
Got it. Right, that makes sense. Okay, and then, so this added use then automatically adds the snowmaking approval of the 2 guns? Because it seems like it's one and then one potential?
Yeah, they're requesting up to 2 guns. I think that they'll probably use them if needed and not always have both guns going if the snow, if it's a higher snow year. So because we're in for this use permit approval, they're also lumping in what they want to do with this use permit because everything gets elevated to the highest level. So they're here before you with both the accessory use, if per se, it's not really a use, but the accessory portion of it and permitting, oh, look at that, and permitting the winter snow play area.
Okay. Oh, it's back up again. There we
It
go.
wasn't a total breakdown.
Okay, and so on the plan, it shows the yellow line is the pipeline going to 1 gun. Do we know should I ask, this is probably for the applicant,
I have the answer, actually.
Okay.
I asked the applicant.
Is the other one supplied by an above ground line, or does that require another pipeline?
So there's an underground vault at the location of the first snowmaking gun, and they're both supplied by, like a hose per se. And I guess that is traditional for most snowmaking guns.
Got it. Okay. So it will not require, if they use a second gun, another underground line anywhere. Perfect. Okay. So the former temporary permit was just for 14 days. This one, they can do it as much as needed every day that it's cold enough, correct?
Sure. I mean, they could. I think that, monetarily and water usage, they'll use it just when they need to keep the snow play operation going.
Okay. And then we talked about this earlier today, but so we're being asked to approve it on the 15301 exemption for existing facilities. The wording in that has me a little bit uncomfortable because it says that the operation, repair, and maintenance, blah, 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 involving negligible or no expansion or existing of former use. So it does sound like it's an expansion of Tahoe Donner's snowmaking, but do we have numbers to show that it's negligible?
So staff analyzes, so it's negligible when you're looking at the whole use on the property. So this is all of Trout Creek Recreation Center, 2 pools, showers, indoor gym facilities, a golf driving range. So the addition of, staff does believe that the addition of 2 snowmaking guns is a negligible expansion, in the scheme of the whole project, the whole Trout Creek Recreation Center.
Okay, and then, like, if you were to relate this snowmaking gun to a shower, does that make sense? Like, is this the same as running a shower that amount of time? Is it 10 times that much? Do we have any idea about the intensity of water use?
I don't. Once again, that would be kind of Tahoe Donner PUD's, Truckee Donner PUD's purview. Obviously, it would be much more than running a shower, I would assume. But I think if you look at their overall water usage for all of Trout Creek Recreation Center, I would make the assumption that it's a negligible increase in water.
Was there anything in the specs for the polecat model that we could pull up? Or maybe these
Yeah, maybe the
folks have
applicant
it.
could speak to that a little bit more.
Great, thank you. Okay, you guys good on questions? Okay, so we're going to move on to questions for the applicant. Can we start at the same place with Commissioner Riley?
I don't have any questions for the applicant.
Same, no questions for the applicant.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, well, then I would like to throw you that question. What is the intensity of the water usage? Is it indeed negligible? Do you have any numbers to show me that it's negligible?
I think they have to go up to the podium.
Please, yes.
So just from the specs for the snowmaking guns, it can run, I think it's 100 gallons per minute up to 250 gallons per minute. And that's typical snow gun. I don't know how that relates to, or it compares to a shower. But those are just the specs that I have as far as how much use there is, or could potentially be. And yeah, it's typical for any type of snowmaking gun. They are newer snowmaking guns, so they are very efficient.
Okay, and do you, so we don't have any sort of numbers to show that this is a negligible increase in use?
Right, I don't have numbers specifically to compare at the site, no.
Okay, all right, thank you. Did you want to add anything else? Are you also with the project?
So John Mitchell, Director of Capital Projects for Tahoe Donner. The snow guns are 120 gallons per minute. I just got confirmation from that from the consultant. And I would say it's negligible compared to the water use to water the driving range. So if you're comparing the usage in our summertime use versus this use, it's definitely negligible. I would say we use way more water in the grass than the snowmaking. And to be clear, the snowmaking guns are only on early season. So as soon as we set our base and get that a couple feet of snow, probably 2 to 3 weeks out of the season, they're going to get shut off. So we only run them to get the base and then turn them off. We're not running them all season, and we're conserving as much water as possible.
Oh, great, thank you so much. All right. So now it looks like we need to open public comment. Do we have any members of the public? I don't think we have any members of the public here at all. So I'm going to close public comment, if we're good with that. Then I guess we deliberate as a commission. Does anybody want to make any points?
I feel good overall about what they're proposing. I do have concerns about the noise, but I feel good they did this 14-day test. They didn't get any comments back. And I appreciate condition 13 where there is reference to acknowledging noise and complaints. And so that gives me comfort in supporting this. So that's kind of where I'm at. I feel good moving forward.
I'm in the same boat. I don't have any hang-ups, per se.
I'm also hang-upless. I appreciate the framing of providing a place to redirect people from more sensitive areas. I think that's a good approach to protecting the spots, and this seems very reasonable to me.
Great. And I do feel a little bit better about it being a negligible increase in use. So I appreciate both of your input on that. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2021-08, determining the project to be exempt from CEQA per Section 15301 of the CEQA guidelines, and approve the project amendment based on the recommended findings and subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
I'll second that.
Chantal, would you like to do a roll call? Sorry, Carissa. Sorry.
Vice Chair Tarnay.
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Riley.
Yes.
Great, so the motion passes. Thank you very much for coming in. We okay? Okay, good. Oh, good. Oh, and the appeal period ends October 1st, 2021 at 5 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So moving on to item 8 on our agenda is presentations. And we will be having a presentation on the Innovate Gateway project. I believe it is just Jamie presenting this evening. And that's it. Perhaps with Yumi as backup.
While Jamie's getting situated, I'll just say that we're trying to do more presentations to the Planning Commission so that you have more time to be informed about some of these more long-range projects. So we hope to continue this process so that you kind of have some time to digest what we are talking about before you have to make a decision about it. So the next one of these that you'll see after this is for the land use alternatives.
Can I ask a question tied to that? Because I was going to ask it later, but since you brought it up, will we be just getting a presentation on the land use alternatives next month and not making a decision, or are we going to be expected to make a decision?
We're going to run it as sort of a two-part. We'll do a bit of a workshop format with sort of an opportunity for you to talk amongst yourselves, and then the second part would be the opportunity to make a recommendation to council. So that way you can have some more time to talk just freely without having that kind of immediate pressure of making a decision and then follow it.
Okay, and is that expected to take place at the October 19th Planning Commission?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Wait, so can I clarify that both of those are happening at the October?
Right, we're just dividing it into two sections of the meeting.
Okay, but it's the same?
Same meeting. Yep. Jenna's just reinstating too that we had already done a presentation for you on the land use alternatives, so it's not going to be the same type of presentation. It's really more for you to discuss as a group, sort of your interests, concerns, public comment, whatever it is that you want to talk about before you have to make a decision. So it's a slightly different format than just a presentation. It's a more of a open setting for you to discuss as a commission without having the same structure that we have when we're asking you to make a decision. So it'll be more clear when we get to that point, but just know that you'll have a more free opportunity to discuss land use alternatives as a commission.
Are we also going to be considering that Estates Meadow project as well at the same meeting?
Yes, October 19th.
So this is going to be a pretty stacked agenda. Is this expected to be a long meeting?
Yes, probably a long meeting, and then Jamie will explain to you next steps for Innovate Gateway also. We have a lot of work to do.
Okay, I'm just trying to wrap my head around that, just a lot to process, because I think the Estates one, I wasn't part of the first review, but I am aware it's got some stuff to talk about.
There was discussion about having an additional planning commission meeting. Is that not happening?
Yeah, we are, and we can do this item now if you guys.
Sorry, I
it's
just
okay.
kept the train going on the questions.
So October 14th, we're talking Innovate Gateway, and we have a possible commercial project in Brickletown. If that doesn't come to fruition, we might have a possible project in Tahoe Donner, but don't know yet. And then October 19th, we'll have the land use alternatives discussion and potential recommendation, and then the Estates Drive affordable housing project. So we'll be meeting twice in October.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Shall we go to Jamie now?
All right. So tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Innovate Gateway project and the stage we're at and where we're going from here. And so the purpose of tonight's meeting, we were hoping to get this as a formal review item in front of you guys today. And we did notice it that way to the public. However, we did try to get the word out that the draft document was not quite ready for release. So we delayed it to a special Planning Commission meeting that's scheduled for October 14th. And so tonight we are going to have the staff presentation. I'll go over the Caltrans grant parameters, the Innovate Gateway goals, the outreach process to date, the draft Innovate Gateway strategy overview that will be coming out, and then the next steps. And then we'll move into Planning Commission questions and answers, more related to the process rather than the details of the strategy, since we haven't gotten there yet. And then receive public comment, because public is allowed to comment at any point during this process. So, and also I just wanted to say that the Planning Commission special meeting is scheduled for October 14th. The staff report won't be coming out until the week before, but we're hoping that the draft will be released sooner. So that's part of why I'm going to be introducing you to elements of the strategy so that you know what to expect, because if you want to start diving into it sooner, as you heard, you have a stacked agenda the following week. So if you want to spread things out a little bit. All right, so some background on this project. This is the result of a Caltrans Sustainable Communities grant. And in 2018, the town submitted a grant application to Caltrans, and the purpose was to improve sustainable development, and that's the purpose for all Caltrans sustainable community grants. In 2019, Caltrans was awarded the town a $250,000 grant, and that includes an 11.45% town match, which is mostly through staff work. The funding was granted to the town based on the stated intent to provide a framework and incentives for higher density and affordable housing, as well as mixed-use opportunities near job centers and services along the town's primary multimodal transportation corridor. And then in fall 2020, we kicked off the project. The established goals for the Innovate Gateway project are to encourage higher density and more affordable and senior housing and mixed-use opportunities near job centers, the primary transit corridor, schools, and community services, to inspire economic development and reinvestment through incentives, compelling design concepts, and construction pro forma analysis, to enhance multimodal transportation to reduce traffic and improve safe and convenient mobility for all users. And that builds off of the Envision DPR project. And lastly, to improve the quality of life for existing and future residents, workers, and visitors. The project area entails a 2-mile stretch of Donner Pass Road from Coldstream Road to the MacGyver Crossing roundabout. The properties that are encompassed in the area that we studied is all of the area that's in color, as well as the streets and sidewalks and everything in between. And as for the process to date, I'll go over some of the highlights. We did contract with an outside consultant named MIG. They did a lot of the outreach, planning, design work, and as sub-consultants, they had BAE Urban Economics that did the economics and pro forma analysis, as well as LSC that reviewed some of the traffic impacts. There was substantial both outreach in both English and Spanish for all of these. It included 3 virtual public workshops, 2 separate online surveys, 1 in-person outreach event in the project area to target people who were underrepresented in the surveys and the workshops. We did mailings, e-notifications, social media postings, and Sierra Sun ads for every public meeting, and we did door-to-door flyers delivered on 2 separate occasions. And we had a dedicated page for Innovate Gateway on the town website. We did stakeholder interviews with property owners, business owners, and developers. And there was an economic analysis for potential development prototypes to ensure that the recommendations in this project are actually feasible and buildable. All of the aforementioned outreach and research culminated in the draft Innovate Gateway strategy. So I'm going to introduce you to the main concepts presented in each chapter to familiarize you with what to expect when the draft is released in less than 2 weeks. I'll skip the introduction chapter since you can guess what to expect there. Chapter 2 includes the existing context, so it sort of sets the stage for the project, tells you what's going on, describing the existing conditions and difficulties and hurdles. It summarizes the development prototypes and economic analysis that was one of the driving forces for feasibility of development recommendations. And so that summary is within the document. The full economic analysis will be an attachment to the strategy. Chapter 3 dives into the vision framework that includes the overarching vision elements for the gateway area. And that includes uniqueness, wanting it to be welcoming, supportive, connected, and healthy. Those were the 5 themes that kept coming up over and over during the public outreach process. And it also talks about the 3 separate character areas within the gateway, that 2-mile corridor, the western, central, and eastern sections, which all have a little bit of unique needs. Also within Chapter 3, you'll find the streetscape concepts. These are still work in progress that you see up on the screen right now, where we're still refining them. And you'll get to look at all the details when you get the draft document. In Chapter 4, it provides detailed strategies to implement each of the broad strategies to achieve the community goals, including the desired look, feel, character, uses, and functionality within the gateway area. It also includes suggested modifications to the land use and zoning standards within the gateway area to incentivize the desired types of improvements and reinvestment. So that'll be seeing where the real changes are going to be happening. And then lastly, Chapter 5 includes the implementation. So you'll see the policy and regulatory actions to be implemented, the partnerships that the town may want to facilitate with other agencies, and investment opportunities for the town to really get this moving. So the near-term schedule, what's coming right down the pipeline, on or before October 5th, we're looking to release the draft Innovate Gateway strategy. And again, the draft strategy will be coming out, and then the staff report will be come out the following week. So again, this is to really get you introduced, let you know what to expect. October 14th will be that special planning commission meeting that we discussed to review the draft and to forward your comments to the town council. And then October 26th is the anticipated date for town council meeting to review and consider the adoption of the strategy. Once the strategy is finalized and adopted, the next steps will be to coordinate the recommendations with the general plan update process, the draft development code modifications for consideration to implement the recommendations. This will also include analysis bearing in mind the recently signed housing legislation. So we did make some recommendations that we need to kind of flesh out and determine if that's feasible and doable given the legislation that just was signed. Also to develop marketing materials for property owners and potential developers to understand the parameters and incentives of investing within the gateway area. And lastly, to construct the envisioned streetscape improvements. That would entail determining funding sources, finalizing designs, forming an assessment district with businesses and property owners in that area, and to finally build the streetscape improvements. That concludes my presentation. We are asking for members of the public to stay involved. We've had some really great participation along the way. We do have the project website listed here for those who are watching at home, as well as my email address if you want to submit any comments or contact me directly. And sorry, I should also mention, Yumi Dawn has been integral in this whole process as well. And sorry, I didn't pass off the microphone to you, but she's also available to answer any questions and help people with the process.
Great, thank you, Jamie. Okay, so at this point, we will have questions and answers from the Planning Commission. Nikki, are you all right if I start with you again, or?
Yeah, sure. I didn't really prepare anything because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, and again, we're really looking for Q&A
Yeah,
related to the
yeah.
process and kind of overarching ideas,
Right.
Not getting into what you're looking for into the strategy or comments you might have about it at this point.
The only thing I wanted to mention was I was copied on a public comment from Eric Larson at the Villager, and I was hoping that would be forwarded to the rest of the commission and made public, because I know he has a lot of thoughts and concerns, and I know we want to be elevating the voices of our community, so.
Yeah, so I did talk to him this afternoon.
Okay, great.
And so it was a good discussion, and he acknowledged that the email address that he was trying to use was spelled incorrectly. We're not sure why the website wasn't working for him. We all tried it separately and it seems to be working for us. So I'm not sure what's happening on that end. He said he used it from 2 different devices and couldn't get on. So we've tried to be very open and transparent. I did share all the outreach efforts that we've been making. And he said that he'll hold off on incorporating those comments into the public record until the draft is released and we have an opportunity there.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate the update. I think because he's in this, he's been at this location at the nursery for so many years. He has so much, hands-on knowledge and perspective, and it's so helpful. I mean, he's right there. He sees it every day. So I'm happy we'll be sensitive to that. Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
I did not have any questions this time.
As a planning commissioner, we're not allowed to comment on projects that are within 500 feet of our own home. Does that apply to this?
No, because this is a strategy, so there's no regulation involved, so you're safe.
Thank you. I live next to all the really good projects. Would you mind going back, Jamie, to the next step slide?
This one or the
Yeah.
next one? Okay.
What specifically, sorry, the previous one.
Okay.
Yeah, you were right. Help me understand specifically where planning commission's involved in this. I know we're involved in development code modifications. Only wearing the GPAC hat will Commissioner Riley and I be involved in the general plan. That's the extent of our involvement, right?
Yeah, so again, I'm not sure if I explained this adequately, but this is a strategy document. It's not a regulatory document. So in the document, you'll see a lot of, the town should consider modifying development standards to allow X, Y, Z, or, this proposes to incorporate these ideas. So you'll see a lot of language like that because it's not regulatory, it's not a shall or a must. And so all of the steps that are described within the strategy will all be further fleshed out when we get to the next stages, whether that's passing it on to the general plan update process, or when you get the development code updates. The Planning Commission's obviously really integral in that process. And so we'll be forwarding the updates to the development code to you guys. You'll be taking a look at that. Council will take a look at that. The public will have opportunity there as well. And then, like finalizing the streetscape design, that typically falls outside of the Planning Commission's purview. So, yeah.
Which makes sense. So we're talking about GPAC, or sorry, the land use elements on the 19th. We'll get these recommendations after that, correct?
Well, technically, you'll be looking at this the week before the land use alternatives. However, we have been working on these two projects side by side, and so trying to make sure they're fairly consistent with one informing the other and kind of back and forth as we're getting more up-to-date information.
Thank you for breaking that down into baby steps for me.
Well, I just want to make sure that you're clear too as a commission. We're still looking for your recommendations on this strategy to forward to council. So even though you're not a decision maker on this, council's going to want to know if you have changes that you want to see happen so that they can adopt those as part of the document.
Yeah, and also just to add on to that, the expectation at the October 14th meeting, we're not adopting a resolution that you will all be trying to vote on and build consensus. We'll be collecting comments from you to forward to the council, and they can decide what they want to grab and what they don't feel is appropriate. That'll be up to them.
I really appreciate that clarification. So sort of the general discussions that we have, the notes, not specifically line items.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And where there is consensus, obviously, that's incredibly helpful, but it doesn't have to be.
Jamie, I had one more question for you. You had a slide here that had some specific addresses on it.
Addresses.
If you went back, it had 3 different addresses, 3 little houses. Back, one more.
Yeah.
I was just curious what those there you go.
Yeah, so this is part of the economic analysis that was conducted for this project, trying to look at feasibility, what's actually doable, what's buildable, and combining that with what was the community looking for. So one of the examples were really highly dense 5-story, 6-story buildings. That was not at all well received with the community, and it was determined not to be very feasible anyway, so they didn't go into a lot of further analysis on that. So these were the 4 concepts that kind of moved forward.
So these were just concepts as it relates to specific properties, saying, hey, here's a property, and here's what we could do at that property.
Yeah, exactly. We're not saying, hey, this is approvable. In theory, it meets the criteria, but we haven't gone through each of those development properties or projects with a fine-tooth comb, saying, does it meet exactly parking? They said it does. There's not a specific plan. We don't have floor plans or anything else.
This was just a litmus test.
Exactly.
Got it.
What works, what doesn't work.
Yep.
Great, thank you. I look forward to whatever that was, the 5th, to actually read what came through. Is there, in that report that will come out of that, is that, like, have you compiled all of the public input that's happened over the other meetings?
Yeah, so in let's see, which chapter is it? In chapter 2, it does talk about, or maybe it's in chapter 1, it summarizes the public outreach process, but then there's a separate attachment that has all of the details of it and in much more thorough effort. So.
Of what the public has put in, not the public outreach, but the public input.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the mural boards that we worked on that were essentially virtual whiteboards that the public was helping us move things around and make sticky note comments in virtual format. Yeah.
And I attended many of those, but I don't remember there being sort of like specific votes on things or anything. Am I remembering that correctly? Like there wasn't a...
Yeah, so for the first 2 workshops, we broke out into small groups, and there was a lot of discussion within each group about what people liked, what they didn't like. Again, we weren't necessarily trying to come to consensus on each topic, just kind of idea generations. And then the last workshop, instead of doing the small group breakout rooms, we had Zoom polls. So specific questions were asked. Everybody in attendance could vote on yay, nay, or otherwise. And so that's how that workshop worked.
Okay, and there will be the summary of the results of those polling.
I haven't seen that part of the attachment yet, but that's my understanding is that there will be more information about each outreach and the results.
Okay, and so then how is the staff coming to their recommendations? Like, how are you narrowing it down to what you're recommending?
I think because we all attended all of the workshops and reviewed the survey results, and then in comparison with the general plan and other outreach processes that we've done, that's what the recommendation is based on.
And consistency with the Caltrans grant requirements.
Too.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Is there something in the Caltrans grant requirements that is in contradiction with anything that was presented as an option?
Not necessarily, but even in some of the preliminary drafts of this document that we got back from MIG, we had to shift a little bit of their focus to make sure that they were fulfilling the goals of the grant. So it's more at that level that we have to do that secondary review and make sure that if there's something came out of public comment, that it's still consistent with the objectives of what we need to give to Caltrans.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Thank you so much. I do look forward to this eagerly after attending many of the interaction events. Great. So, is there any, I need to open public comment for this. I don't think there's any public comment unless, do we still have people texting public comment? No, okay. So open public comment. I guess I'm going to close public comment since there's not public here. And we'll move on to item number 9 on our agenda, which is information items. So 9.1 is upcoming commission meetings and agenda items. I think that Jenna already covered this. Should we do it again just for clarity's sake or skip it?
It's up to you. I'm happy to repeat it, or we can forego.
I appreciate the earlier explanation.
I think we've covered it actually twice now, so I think we're all good? Okay. And then commission member reports. I'm going to mix it up and go to Miller this time.
Thank you. In the last month, I attended the GPAC meeting. On that topic, I had a lovely hour-long conversation with Alex from Moonshine Inc. about the general plan overall and that process, and I really appreciate our storytelling entities helping to tell that story because it is important and complicated. And I helped text and canvass for Measure T, which passed. Thank you, Nevada region voters. And I also want to wish everyone a very auspicious National Roundabout Week, because Truckee has a lot of roundabouts, and that is the week that it is, according to the US DOT. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Freeman.
Nothing to report.
And Riley?
I attended the last GPAC meeting, and that's all.
Great, thank you. I myself also attended the GPAC meeting and also attended, where is it? Oh, turning the page. The August 25th Mountain Housing Council presentation on one of their latest studies on housing needs. And then, yes, and then the only other thing is yesterday was my 18th wedding anniversary. Yay me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a success.
And my husband is not in town, so we texted. Okay, so we are all set. We're going to adjourn to our next commission meeting, which is October, this says 19th, but I think we're meeting on the 14th. Yeah, till October 14th for our special meeting, and then October 19th will be, is that right, our regular meeting? And we are adjourned. Thank you.